Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
What would you say you do here?
God damn it. Bob, we love playing here tonight. My brother's ready.
It helps if you think of it as a game, Bob. Every game has a winner and a loser.
You must possess strength to inflict pain, Bob.
Minute over again. Welcome to episode 22 of the Two Bobs Cast. We are a weekly A to Z rock and metal podcast. We are on the letter M. We did Metallica last week in one gigantic 2-hour extravaganza. And this week we are going to be doing Mastodon. So I am Mr. H. I'm here as always with the Herd. How are you doing, sir?
Dude, I am good. I am really good. Just hanging in there, getting ready for this Iron Maiden show next week. Can you believe it? Next week.
Friday. I know.
So going out to Pittsburgh to see Iron Maiden for my first time. So I am pumped.
Should be fantastic.
Yeah, I really can't wait.
Kelly's first time too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah,
man. She'll have fun. I could not talk my wife into going. She was like, I'm good. And she loves Pittsburgh too, which, you know, she usually would be like,
hard to do.
It's Pittsburgh. Well, the city's cool, but
yeah, it is. It really is.
It's a really nice city. We go there just to check it out.
There is the people. Woof.
Yeah,
but the city's awesome.
Yeah. So Mastodon today,
who are not from Pittsburgh.
They're not from Pittsburgh. I'm excited. This is actually a new experience for the Two Bobs because Mastodon is the first band that we're going to cover that both of us don't love per se. Bob had my partner Bob here, Mr. H, did not really know too much about them going into this, so it was kind of a first listen for all these albums. So I just want to say off the rip, yeah, I appreciate you going through the whole exercise.
It was fun. It was fun. I gathered a lot of knowledge on the music that I didn't otherwise have. So
cool. Well, all right. Well, I'll get into the beginnings of the great Mastodon. They were formed year 2000 after the drummer and the guitarist Braun and Bill moved from New York to Atlanta, Georgia. So they were in bands, the two of them. They were in a band called Lethargy and a band called Today is the Day. And I guess they played a lot of underground clubs, things like that. They decided to move down to Georgia, and at the band High on Fire met the other two members of the band, Troy Sanders and Brent Hines, who they played in a band together called 4 Hour Fogger. So
that's a good one.
It's an amazing name.
4 Hour Fogger. I like it.
So basically they met at this show and they basically became best friends right off the beginning and talking about music they liked. And they both really found, or all four of them found, that they loved a lot of the same bands, like sludge metal bands, the Melvins and Neurosis. It's kind of like what they bonded over. They all loved Iron Maiden. They all loved Thin Lizzy. So, you know, they kind of dreamed about what we can make that kind of combines all those things together. And, you know, eventually, you know, they put that together. So
I think I have some Neurosis swag from like Ozfest. Didn't they come here on Ozfest? Neurosis?
Probably.
I think I have some stickers or something from them I've come across over time.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Neurosis quite a bit coming up through this podcast because they're the singer of Neurosis, Scott Kelly, I believe his name is. He is on at least a song on 6 of the 8 records.
Oh, wow.
So
didn't realize that.
yeah, well,
Nice.
he wasn't on the newest one though because he got into some trouble and now he is off the map. But we'll get into those later on.
Yeah.
So
Did he
the
get canceled?
well, so I guess
Did he cancel himself?
there was accusations of him abusing his wife and kids,
Yeah.
and then admitted it, and then said, "All right, well, since I'm a piece of trash, I'm gonna hide from the music business and all that." So
Yeah,
after that,
I remember hearing about that. Yep. No,
yeah.
you said it. Gotcha.
So yeah,
So that was the Neurosis singer.
yes, the Neurosis singer,
Which is why they're not really around anymore, right?
I think they broke up a while ago. They always
Yeah.
kind of just called this guy up and said, "Hey, we got a song." Every record, I think, from the second record to the seventh record, there's a song on there, and he does vocals on it, which is cool. Because they worshipped the band Neurosis, they all loved them. So basically, the four of them got together and they started putting music together, doing live performances. Put a demo together with actually a singer named Eric Sainer. And basically didn't survive very long. He, for personal reasons, decided he didn't want to sing in the band. So they were recording a demo, which ended up being re-released later on. The something of the Mastodon. I can't really think of it offhand. But they released this demo with the singer, and then basically said, "Well, he's out, so we're going to redo it." And it basically was just Troy and Brent sharing the vocal duties, which vocals is a big story with this band because nobody really
I agree with that.
nobody really wanted to be the singer of this band, and basically the two of them just decided we're going to sing, and that was kind of it. So the funny thing is that the four of them became best friends right from the beginning, and they're the same four that started and the four that are still in the band. They still love each other. It's great watching all their documentaries and stuff. They're best of friends, and they always are laughing, and they're just like the goofiest guys. So it's pretty cool.
So there was 4 guys, and then there was 5 with the singer, or
5. Yep.
Okay.
So it's the same 4 that are in the band,
Gotcha.
plus the singer, and then the singer's like, "I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore." So then it went back to the 4.
Any of these albums?
Nope.
Right?
Okay. Just that demo.
So. Okay.
Again, they re-released it later on, but they had a demo called "Life's Blood," and that featured this guy on it, and then he was out, so they re-recorded that demo. Most of the songs on the first record they played live around. They were written way before the album was released.
Yeah, I read that somewhere along the way. Yeah.
So I guess that'll take us then right to the first record, which is "Remission," which was released on May 28th of 2002. So about 2 years after they met. They did the EP, and then they did some touring, played a lot of these songs. So basically most of these songs were recorded in the year and a half before it was released. So based on that EP, they were signed to Relapse Records, which was a pretty decent sized metal label.
I remember that one.
And they ended up with the same producer for the first, I think, 3 albums. His name is Matt Bales. He ended up doing a lot of stuff with the Seattle Soundgarden, Pearl Jam stuff. But he produced their first 3 records. And these first 3 are kind of looked at as like a trilogy. There's a lot of themes in all their records. This is the first one, or this is the one for a while that doesn't have a theme or a concept, I guess we should say. It does have a theme. So the first 4 are based on symbols, like elements. So this one is supposed to be the fire symbol, which doesn't, again, this one isn't really a concept album. It's just the themes of the songs is more a fire. So just in interviews, they're like, "Yep, this is our fire record." So basically this one is it's a starting point, but really they completely evolve after this. This one's considered prog metal, sludge, thrash, which it definitely is, and I probably wouldn't say it's a lot of that going forward, but this is definitely their heaviest record for sure. There's no melody really on it at all. Some guitar melodies for sure, but as far as vocals, there's nothing. Again, this band is progressive in every sense of it, just from where they started to where they ended. And again, we're going through all the albums, so we'll talk about that. But this record, the 2 guys are on vocals, the bass player and the guitar player, and neither of them wanted to do vocals, and neither of them are very good at it at this point. So it's just a lot of screaming, growling, whatever you want to call it on this type of thing. It's not like where we just did Lamb of God a couple weeks ago. That one it's just a straight up, he's pretty consistent through all the albums of how he's growling and screaming. But this one, it's almost like they didn't really know what they wanted to do with vocals and just kind of layered it on top of it. So just a very rough production, a rough production overall. But it's a dated album, and this is what they were going for. This is the kind of music they liked. And a lot of people love this album. It's pretty highly revered, just as in the genre. Again, this is assuming you're a sludge metal guy, a thrash metal guy, a little stoner rock in there, little elements of all that stuff. So I will say I do like the album cover. Pretty cool. It looks like an animal exploding. I don't even know what that.
Yeah, it's like a horse trying to eat like a part of its body that exploded, or he's like writhing in pain and it's like his torso exploded. It's pretty graphic, but I like the Mastodon logo and the artwork around the Mastodon logo. Like you can see in the middle picture that we have up here, like that looks cool. Like what I can't stand is these bands these days that have all these like weird, it look like somebody scratched up like a piece of paper with like 18 Sharpies in their hands, and you can't read anything in there. Like, I don't know why they do that. Why do they make it so hard for you to read their name and see their like logo? But the Mastodon, like on your shirt and they have really great artwork, and it's just clean. It's easy to read, and it's got stuff with it. It's kind of its own thing,
Yep. Absolutely.
Unlike our artwork.
Exactly. Hey,
block letters.
Yeah, it's all good.
Right. You can read it though. That's the point. You can read it.
Exactly. That's important, especially, trying to get people to read it.
Right.
It's kind of hard concept. So, songs that I like off this record, there's a few. The beginning of their first song, Crusher Destroyer, actually has a clip from Jurassic Park of the T-Rex.
Yeah.
So the very first part of the whole album when you start it is the growl of a Tyrannosaurus. It's pretty cool.
Mastodon makes sense, fits right in, right? That's pretty cool. Actually, I enjoyed that. I did read that also, and I enjoyed that. I also read that Bron Daler.
It's spelled Bran, but it's Bron.
Yeah, it's just two N's in there, I guess. But Bron, I want to call him Bran because of because of Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, but I guess it's Bron. But he also said that like his sister committed suicide or died when she was like 14 or something. And part of the naming of this album, Remission, he said he felt like he got a lot of stuff out of his system playing on this record, and that the title kind of reflects that. Like remission is like being healthy again, or releasing what was wrong, so and I thought that was pretty cool that that he tied all that together. So
well, obviously, I mean, and anybody would admit that. So he was 14, she was 13, and she committed suicide.
That's right.
So a 14-year-old. But a lot of
they were close. Like it wasn't.
Like
my annoying little sister. Like they were close.
And we'll talk a lot more about that because her name is Sky. Was Sky.
Correct. The Sky. Gotcha.
Exactly. So, and Bron he's a main force in the creative process as far as theming.
A lot of writing credits.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about Mastodon, every song that they've ever written, from the first song to the newest album, all tracks are written by Mastodon. They don't do the single credits. We just went through Metallica where every song had to be called out with whoever did whatever. But with Mastodon, they all do everything. But Bron is the creative when it comes to the names of the albums, the themes, a lot of the lyrics, things like that. He does a lot of that stuff. So kind of taken from Neil Peart with doing a lot of the lyrics and things like that. And my God, the one thing I will say about this album before I go into the ones that I like is these first three albums. Now, these are before he starts singing, which he does later on. These three records are just insane with drums. All the fills, all the thing. It's just, it's it's a lot. I don't know how
Yeah.
he does it. It's a lot, but it's like he's playing 1,000,000 miles an hour,
Yeah.
and just every 5 seconds is a drum fill. He definitely curbs down on that later on, but and probably because
Thank you for that, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you for that. So
like, dude, I get it. You're a rock god. You can play anything, but
get off my paper and review the album.
Okay.
Damn it.
So songs I like, Crusher Destroyer. One of my favorite early songs by them is March of the Fire Ants. The riff is phenomenal. There's a little section towards the end of it, little musical break, which is super awesome. Also like
it's early on, right? Okay, yeah, second song.
Yep. Then Mother Puncher is again, they're putting their humor in some. It's pretty funny. And then a lot of these songs they still play, which to me I've heard them a bunch now. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I've
only saw them the one time,
Yeah.
but that was because they played all of Leviathan. They played 2 other songs, and neither one of them was on this album.
Correct.
So, yeah, I didn't realize they played a lot.
Yeah, they play a lot of these older songs.
It might actually change my opinion of them, to be honest with you.
Probably because I really think they sound awesome when they're live. Now as opposed to this album. So, Skippers, a lot of the middle of the album, it gets a little bit boring and monotonous for me. I don't like the production of this album. This one is really the only album I do not come back to at all. The other 7 I come back to continuously, all 7. So when I'm giving my rankings, obviously that's going to play into it because I think every album is good. This one is not bad. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's not. I never come back to it other than a few songs. March of the Fire Ants is basically the main song I come back to. I think they
still play that live, huh? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because they sound so much different now than they did then. Like it surprises me that they which makes me wonder like what these songs sound like now. Do they play them the same way as they were on the album, or do they
have some live records,
modernize them? I'll have to listen to some of that.
Yeah,
actually, maybe I'll like them more.
But this just kind of to wrap this one up. This is number 8 for me. It's pretty easy, the lowest. A lot of people love this album. To me, they get a lot better throughout the years with production, with sound, with melody, with everything. This just doesn't have any of that yet.
God,
So this is a C- for me. I'm not going to give this band anything lower than a C-.
So funny.
Yeah, I love these guys so much. That I can't do it. C- for me. This is 8. Hopefully I didn't steal too much of your Remission thunder.
No. It's just, I'm sorry. I wasn't really just bitching.
You're good.
I was just like, I don't have a whole lot to say here, but the stuff I did have to say, you're like, I swear you're reading my notes, just like I was to you last week.
Right.
So it's weird because first thing you said is like, the vocals, you talked about the vocals, right? And you talked about how they just added them later and there's a lot of growling and it's not very good. My first note is not a fan of the vocal style at all. That's the first thing I wrote. So that's the first thing you said. And then you were talking about Bron, and I said, this is what I wrote. While it's obvious that Daler is a fantastic drummer, fantastic. This dude's ridiculous. He's like Prodigy good, right?
Yeah, right.
It sounds like he's doing a drum solo in every single song. Yep. Then it barely fits into the song. Like, where's the groove?
Right.
Where's anything to kind of bang my head to? It's hard to bang your head to or even get into at all without the groove. It just feels all over the place. And to me, I put Animal from the Muppets back there because that's what it sounds like to me.
Yep.
And where I like some of it, like that is, and so you were kind of almost reading it right down. I'm like, man, he's going to even use the same line I put in here, I bet, if I let him go. So it's all good. But it was, that's how I felt about it. Like, it's just him showing off how great a drummer he is, like, and it just to the detriment of everything else. Like, there's no real guitar riffs in here that stick in your head, like, and the lyrics aren't good, and there's no melody in the choruses or anything, so I don't even know what's going on here. But the funny thing is I don't hate it, so I rated it as a C- and an 8, exactly like you did. Right. So it's kind of funny with this. All in the end, we ended up in the exact same spot. But my favorites were Old Nessie. Like, I like that. It had a good kind of vibe to it. The last 20 seconds of Burning Man was really good. Now I'm starting to divide up songs, which isn't good. But I like Trainwreck. That's an okay song. It's got a little bit more melody. And I liked Elephant Man.
Okay.
So skippers for me are Where Strides the Behemoth and Workhorse. I didn't care for either of those. I basically said it's just the slower instrumental stuff I like, which is why I like Old Nessie, which is why I like Elephant Man. But the rest I could just skip because the vocals are just they're not understandable, and Bron's just going crazy doing what he does, which is fine. But it gets so much better later, right? When he's doing it within the song and he's filling in these spots. He's not just soloing all over top of everything, which is what it felt like. You know, it's unbelievable. And he does some of that later, too. He doesn't completely get away from that. And
sure.
It still bugs me then too, but I'm like, dude, I get it. You're fantastic, you know. But I mean, I can go watch a bunch of Drumeo clips and see people play just like that, and all they're doing is playing drums. You know, that's I need more than that, you know. So, but it's good that he's involved and he's self-aware enough to later on. This actually works itself out. There's some really good songs in here, even though this isn't a band that I love. So, I did find some really good stuff along the way. So, but anyway, that's all I got for Remission.
Yeah.
On to Leviathan, which we have seen him do live the entire album. So I think that makes a difference for me too. But
yeah, absolutely. So this one, August 31st, 2004, same production crew that Matt Bales and Mastodon. This is their second studio album, of course, and it is loosely based on the novel Moby Dick by Herman Melville. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's something. It's not Melville. Like it's something Melville or
like Louisville or Louisville, like Louisville,
something like that. So obviously, this element is water, as you could probably guess. This one is pretty huge for the band. Obviously, they had just gotten signed. They just had done Remission, and this one blew up. This actually got them on tour super early. This got them noticed. It was ranked by a lot of different magazines as top this and top that. Revolver, Kerrang, Terrorizer all gave it really high marks.
I want to say from here till like the rest of their albums, like was it Metacritic that does it out of 100?
Yeah,
and they bring in other people's ratings and they kind of put them all together. I think everything is like a ridiculously high, like 78 or 80 plus. All the rest of their albums, it's just ridiculous.
Well, I mean, these guys are really looked at highly and respected.
Yeah,
like I'm pretty sure if you sat and listened to all these records, if you just once every so often, I bet you would start picking it apart and start really thinking it was better than you do now. You may not love it, but there's a lot going on. It's a tough band to just listen to one off.
I think that's it. Like it's just maybe I need it simpler, but there's a little. I use the word chaos even in a few spots in these reviews, and that's kind of what it felt like. Like it's not structured enough for me. Like I get it, they're fantastic musicians, and they're looked up to, and they're going to be in all of the musicians, the drummer, musician, guitar for the practicing musician. They're going to be all over the place because they're all fantastic musicians. But maybe I just need it more simple and more hooky and more like memorable. Like it's all this building and all this kind of atmosphere, which is awesome. But I have to be in like one little mind space to really enjoy that. But where in the most part of my life, I don't listen to that stuff a lot. So I know there's a lot here. Yeah. It's just, that's my issue, so. Well, but there is some stuff, like I said, that I did like in here. But I like the story. I like concept albums too. So I like the story. So I'm down with that.
Yeah. It's funny. I was sitting with our buddy Brian watching them. They opened for Ghost a couple years ago, and we were both like glued in to the show and breaking down every little solo and everything that we hear. I'm just kind of listening to the people around me, like, man, these guys don't fit, and like, whoa, I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
You
we
like
look at each
listening to it
other.
as a musician, where you
Yeah,
know what I mean.
right.
Like maybe that's what it is, and it's
Yeah.
Dream Theater's a lot like this. Like
It is.
Dream Theater's a different type of music than this is, different genre, but to me they're very similar. And I got a lot of Dream Theater vibes on why I'm not a huge fan of Dream Theater based on what I was hearing here. It's kind of the same thing. They're so good at what they do, which is great, but you know, I don't know. So I just need it simpler, I guess.
Yeah.
You know? Maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know.
No. It's not like that. So
but it's, you know.
So yeah, so this album got them very recognized.
Yes, it did.
It's very loved.
I heard of this way back, and it is the first time I ever tried to listen to them too, back then, because this was so big and you couldn't get away from it. Like everybody was talking about Leviathan. So
yep. So absolutely, this is actually during the first time that I saw them, and to kind of paint the picture, I did not like them at this point. I was not into them at all. I saw them open for Slayer, and there was another band. It was the Jägermeister tour at the Agora. And Leviathan, I think, played first, and then somebody else, and then Slayer. I can't remember.
Mastodon played first. Was that Lamb of God?
No, I don't
Kill
think
Switch?
Might have been Kill Switch. Now that I think about it. Yes.
I think we talked about that. Yeah, it was Kill Switch.
I think it was. So anyway, I saw
first
them,
time I saw him too. How about that?
Yeah.
I decided I didn't like him at that point.
I didn't either. And that's the thing. It's where they're at now. And there's a little bit more melody here for sure than Remission. But
absolutely.
But in this album, it's about the guitars for me. I love the way that these two work together is pretty cool. So Bill Kelleher he's the riff guy. He's the straight ahead riff on all these songs. Usually the main riff of the song he's playing. And then we have B. Hines. He calls himself Dirty B. Hines, which I laugh hysterically at every time. He does, because I'm 5 years old. So
the drummer, he changed his name to Dirty Undies.
Right, Dirty B. Hines. But Brent Hines, he plays the solos later on. There's not a lot of solos in this, but later on he does a lot of the guitar soloing and a lot of the stuff. But
Hines does. He's the solo.
Yeah,
more the solo.
He's the soloist. But there's not a whole lot of that stuff here. But this album to me is much more memorable with the riffs. A lot of these songs I all the time will hear the riffs for. Especially my favorites on this album, Blood and Thunder, of course, probably one of the most well-known to most people Mastodon songs. They play it at 95% of their shows. Usually they close with it. They opened with it at our show, obviously, because they played this whole record. But Blood and Thunder, Sea Beast is awesome, and then Iron Tusk and Megalodon are some of my favorite songs through all their catalog. Hit Bang 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 with this. The first time we see Scott Kelly from Neurosis on Aqua Dementia. So he will do a song from here on out until the newest record. He does not do anything. So those are my favorites. The ones that I do not like, there's not really anything I skip, but the last two, The Heart's Alive and the Joseph Merrick instrumental, is about 16 minutes at the end of it that I don't really need.
Yeah.
I like most of the rest of it. It's a really good album. Again, I went back to it later on, and I'll tell you at what point I went back. But when I first heard this, I didn't like it, but it grew over the years. After probably I've listened to this probably 1,000 times, and I like it a lot. I'm glad I got to see it live. For me, this is my number 4 album. 4 out of 8.
Unbelievable.
I'm ranking this as a B.
Unbelievable.
I'm reading Mr. H's page.
This is unbelievable, man. This is crazy. All right.
But yeah,
at least I know I'm doing stuff right, I guess.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Well, this is kind of checking to see if you're listening.
Yeah, right. It's like, yeah, exactly. This is a test, and I'm passing so far. I'm
so
2
far.
for 2.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, number 4. It's a B album. I think they have better stuff, but it's legendary. I appreciate it for what it is. It is really hard to rank these guys because of how different everything is and how different they are going forward. But I think when you weigh everything with this, when you rank where they started to the legendary status of this to this type of music, even though the vocals are not as good as they're going to be, and it's not the kind of music that I like the most. This is still an amazing album. So number 4 for me. What did you think of Leviathan, Mr. H?
I thought that it was much better with the crazy drumming and the just crazy soloing that seemed to have been going on. It's much more cohesive on this album. I'm still not a fan of the vocals though.
Right.
Still not. The vocals are not coming around on me, but I did enjoy seeing this live, and I agree with you. Hearts Alive, even seeing it live at Drug On, and usually to me, longer songs live don't feel as long because you it's like the adrenaline or whatever, like I could see an 8-minute song, it doesn't feel anywhere near 8 minutes. That one felt every bit like the 13 minutes that it was, but I like the rest of this more, probably because I saw them, but it's not as harsh live, right? Like it's not as hard to understand the vocals live. It seems to fit better. Like on here, the vocals are still too harsh to me. Like I have trouble understanding what's really going on. But I did agree with you. I like Sea Beast. It's one of my favorites on here. Iron Tusk I like a lot, and I like Naked Burn. I did not like I Am Ahab. I did not like Island, and I didn't like Aqua Dementia. I see that Scott Kelly was on this one, but yeah, I did not care for that one. Now, this one differs from Remission for me because I can listen to most of this album. There's a little less chaos going on, more structure, which is kind of, I guess, what I need. And it probably helps to have seen it live. The vocals are still but I have this as a B. I have it as a mid-tier. I have it as a number 4. So imagine that. I'm following right along with my teacher here. What did we get to when it comes to Blood Mountain?
So 3rd full-length studio album and the major label debut by Mastodon. They are now on...
What label? Roadrunner or something?
It's...
I don't remember what they went to.
It was... What was it before?
Relapse.
Yeah. Reprise?
Isn't that what Disturbed's on?
Yeah, I think so.
Them? Yeah.
That's probably more of a popular...
Yeah.
Yeah, so Reprise Records, this was released. This was produced by the same Mastodon and Matt Bales. I said that first 3 albums, the same team. This album is another concept record. This one is not really as where it's set on a book that was written. This is kind of just their own ideas. This is basically, a long story short, basically the guy gets cursed and turned into a werewolf and then goes into the mountains and it tries to basically survive while hallucinating and seeing all kinds of things, and basically just kind of what you would getting thrown on the top of a mountain, try to break this curse. So
that actually kind of makes a little sense then.
Yeah.
What was there an element involved with this one too?
Yeah, this one is the Earth.
Okay.
Earth.
That's what would have been
element.
my guess. I got you.
Yeah, so it's all about climbing up a mountain and the different things that can happen to you when you're stranded on a mountain in the woods and you're lost, starving, hallucinating, running into strange creatures. You're being hunted. It's about the whole struggle, is the quote from Bill Kelleher on the album, and it is an Earth Element album. So, the production is even a step up, but still, it's not a whole lot of difference when you're talking about vocal wise. They're still screaming a lot.
Yeah.
They're trying to add a little bit more melody.
But you're right. The production team, like, they've stepped it up each way along the way. Like Remission wasn't good, really.
No.
Blood Mountain Leviathan was quite a bit better, and I think this one is actually a little bit up from that one even. So the production did go up for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. This one is another one that was highly praised. For me, this album it started off higher for me early on, but as the years have gone by, this one has kind of gone down for me. I guess it just doesn't really live up to some of the newer stuff. Probably a lot because of the vocals. There's still not a lot of like guitar soloing. It's just a lot of riffing, a lot of chaos still, a lot going on. I like some of the songs on here quite a bit, but for me, this is a very front heavy album. When I'm listening to it, I got to turn it off probably about 7. The last 8 9, 10, 11, and 12. I find myself skipping it nowadays, and I used to listen to it all the way through back in the day. So I guess it's just me, maybe growth as what I want to listen to. Maybe this fit more into 30-year-old me and not as much into mid 40s Bob. So I love the songs I like. The Wolf is Loose is pretty good. Crystal Skull is phenomenal. This is the song with Scott Kelly on this album. Sleeping Giant I think is awesome. We saw live Circle of Sasquatch when we saw them live. That's when they had the Sasquatch up on stage, zombie walking around everybody, which was cool. And then, of course, The Colony of Birchmen, which is a cool song featuring Josh Homme from
Queens of the Stone Age.
Yep. Caius.
I just saw that. I didn't even realize that.
Yep. So, yeah, he's on there. And actually, he's on the hidden track of this album as well, basically saying, hey, I heard you guys. I hope you don't mind. I added myself onto some vocals for this. It's like a long thing. It's a goofball thing, but it's pretty cool. Overall, I like this album. To me, like I said, I loved it, and it's gone down for me over the years. A bunch of things have jumped up, and later on, I'll talk about an album. When it first came out, I couldn't stand it, and I had it at the bottom, and that one has worked its way up, kind of switching with this one. So this one for me is number 6. Not a great... Are you number 6?
No,
okay.
Close though.
Okay. So this one's number 6, and this one is still a B- for me. So again, we're seeing that I love all these albums. It's really hard for me to rank them, especially in the middle here, because all these have left an impression on me in my life, and come back to these all the time. I definitely come back to all these. This one I come back to a lot for sure. But it's the number 6. So there's, 5 that I like better than this.
Yeah.
So what did you think of Blood Mountain?
Blood Mountain, I have it pretty much was kind of on par with Leviathan for me, but just slightly less good is what I thought and what I wrote down. My favorites were Sleeping Giant, Colony of Birchmen. I wrote Black Sabbathy goodness in there.
Mm-hmm.
This is very Black Sabbathy type of song, which is really good. And I like this Mortal Soil. I always want to say Coil because this Mortal Soil is name of the song, but I like that one too. I did not like The Wolf is Loose. I did not like Crystal Skull. I did not like Circle of Sasquatch. And Blade Catcher, like who or what is singing that? Aliens?
I don't know.
Do they pipe that in from from ET or
they play that live and they just don't do vocals for it?
I guess not. It must just be piped in or whatever. I don't know. There's some more weirdness here, I guess. But I have this rating a B-.
Okay.
And I have it as a 7. So I have it one spot below you. There's some good stuff here, but slightly more weirdness than Leviathan, which kind of put me off. And that's what knocked it down for me. It's just like it was just a little too goofy. And who are the other two? Do you know who the other 2 featured people are? That Cedric Bixer Zavala and Isaiah Ike Owens. Do you know?
No idea. Nope.
Okay. I just saw they were at. I didn't know if they were from bands I hadn't heard of or whatever, but.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with that. No,
but I had this rated almost in the same spot as you, man, which is weird so far that's what's going on. But
yeah,
good stuff. On to the next one.
On to the next.
Now
one.
The change happens.
Now the major change happens. This is when I got into them. This is.
I can see why.
Yeah. So March 24th, 2009. Probably. I would say most people would say this is when they really found their stride. Crack the Sky, and this one is just progressive metal. This one, they got rid of most of the sludge, they got rid of most of the thrash, they got rid of 99% of the screamy vocals. They just woke up one day and was like, you know what, our drummer is a freaking awesome singer. Why don't we have him sing songs? And not only that, and I'm going to use this excuse for a few records, and I'm going to say, wow, these guys actually sing pretty good on these records for not being good singers. Well, eventually I'm going to get to the point of where I'm like, these guys are just good singers. Like, I think all 3 of them have a completely different style that cohesively just works. They find their spots. Like sometimes one guy will sing the verse, one guy will sing the chorus, one guy will sing the refrain or whatever. It's just pretty cool. But this album really showcases the new style of Mastodon. This is It's all progressive. There's no thrash beats. It's rock and metal, and it's a lot of guitar solos. This is the first time that really shows up. Big, bold choruses, like big singy choruses. Like, to me, this is where they really were something different. They came out and they did an album where I was like, man, this is just what my ears want to hear. I love this album. I go back to it all the time, and I listen to it in full every time. I love every moment of it. I don't skip any of it. I absolutely love it. As far as the theme of it, which it's actually really, really cool. And I'm not going to be able to go into all of it here because there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into this. But basically, so there's this guy, and he's paraplegic, and he has a superpower of being able to astrally go somewhere else, where he can just project himself to other places, like kind of an out of body experience. So at the beginning of the album, he basically is projecting himself to outer space and gets too close to the sun, and his golden umbilical cord, which hooks him to his astral body, was gone. So he floated away, and this astral version of him basically floated into space, and then kind of went through time travel and ended up back in Russia for taking the place of Rasputin. Basically, a Russian cult directed him back into this other body of Rasputin. So that's where all this stuff with the Tsar and the usurper and all that stuff comes from. It's very convoluted and overall just like kind of a science fiction-y space time travel thing. And it all kind of works. If you listen to it, it sounds like kind of nerdy, whatever, but it really, really works for this. We also you mentioned earlier where Braun's sister passed away. Her name was Sky with an E. That's why you don't get crack the actual sky. They're referring to like a double entendre of Crack the Sky, where she committed suicide. And there's a crack in the sky where when he dies as Rasputin, it's kind of like heaven, where these astral bodies like go to the afterlife through this crack in the sky, and it's kind of like the end game of that. So definitely, if you're interested, you may not be, but check it out. It's pretty cool, and if you follow along with it with the album, it kind of makes it a little bit more interesting. But yeah, this album very Pink Floyd-ish, very King Crimson. Brent Hines was listening to In the Court of the Crimson King for inspiration. Also, another fun story, Brent Hines, right about this time, got into a fist fight with Chavo from System of a Down after an award. And I guess a third party kind of got involved. I guess Hines was very drunk, was acting ridiculous, and I guess a guy leveled him, hit him in the head, and went unconscious and went into a coma. And I guess this is where he kind of took his inspiration for his writing, was being in a coma and, trying to put all this stuff together. But he's kind of a goofball anyway. Like, I don't know if he's had brain damage or whatever after that incident, but he's very slow talking, very whatever. But it almost gives me a little bit more respect for the music that he comes up with. And I think he sounds awesome when he sings. I know a lot of people may not like it. He's got the weird nasally voice when you're listening to him, like more of the like rah, 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 rah. He's like that kind of the voice. And that's what I'm saying. They all have their own style, and it all kind of works really, really well.
Sure.
So yeah, this is the first record with all three of those singing. The other guitarist, Bill Kelleher, he only really does backup vocals live. He doesn't sing on any of the records, so it's just the other three. But this is the first album that all three of them sing, and they will all three sing on every record going forward. Favorites of this on this album is basically the whole thing. Crack the Sky is probably one of my favorite songs that they've ever done. I think it has this big fat chorus that's just unreal to me. It's gives me goosebumps, probably because of the meaning behind it too. It's really, really powerful. Oblivion is awesome because of, I think, the whole guitar solo in there, I think, is real spacey, real cool. And then The Last Baron for me is phenomenal as well. But I love all of it. I'm not skipping any of it. This is probably one of my top at least in this genre, albums of all time. This is number one. It's easy for me. Number one. This is an A. I'll never get sick of this album. I have it on vinyl. I have it on CD. I listen to it in the car. I listen to it at home. I just love this album. It really speaks to exactly what I want to listen to. Crack the Sky for me is tops, and really the reason why I love this band. It's the reason why I kept coming back to all these other albums.
Yeah, it makes sense. Especially if this is where you started with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I seen them live before this, and I was not interested. I was like, no, not for me. And then I listened to this, and I love this band, and I went back, and I just, you listen, you like it more. So this is the spot for me. But what did you think of Crack the Sky, Mr. H?
This one, I totally agree with you, and I totally see that. Like, if you first get into this band here, and then you go back, and you're like, wait, who? This is the same band? Like, who? I mean, some of the stuff you can tell is in there, but this is a big change going forward. I mean, not just this album, but going forward for them. So, finally, for me, there's more melody and catchiness. It's still a little artsy and proggy for me. For my taste. But, I'm realizing that that's just this band's sound, like that's the vocal delivery is much better. Like, I can actually understand most of it. Like, I didn't get all that story out of it, but I only listened to it once. So you're going to have to listen to it more than that to get all that out of it. But I loved Oblivion, and that's great. Just like you said, Divinations I liked. I like Ghosts of Corellia. Skippers, I have none. This is some good stuff. Although the Baron to me is way too long, and I would say the Tsar is too long too. But it's broken into 4 parts, and it really sounds like 4 different songs.
It is, yeah. There's a break.
I wish they would have just said the Tsar, and then I just wish they would have kind of broken them out into 4 songs, really.
Sure.
But it's 10, 50, 11 minutes or whatever. But it's 4 distinctly different songs. The Baron is just long.
Yeah,
it's 13 minutes. And that's it, though. That's my only complaint on this album. Like, I really, really liked it. It was really good. I have this as number 2 for me. This is B+. This is their best one yet for me. Much catchier stuff here. Much more melody. Not nearly as much weirdness. Just the Baron being too long is really the only complaint I have. There's nothing I would skip. And I didn't even skip the Baron. I just was like, wow, this song's still going on, huh?
Yeah.
So, and I felt that later too about an actual album that I mentioned to Kelly while I was making her listen to it too, as we went for a nice fall drive yesterday. But it was this one I really liked, though. I mean, for them, for not being a style of music that I love, this was a good album. It really was. And I kind of wish I'd give him more of a chance back then. We were talking just before the podcast, and it's hard to, if it's a band that you kind of wrote off, or you don't really like what they do, even when you do hear them, like, as much as you like other stuff, it's hard to fit them in. And this is the kind of band that you need to do that with. You've got to listen to these a bunch of times to try to get all the nuance and all the story and all this other stuff in there that you don't get by listening to it just once. But when it doesn't grab you, it's hard to kind of go back to that. Well, now I've got all this catalog of stuff. I don't know if I'm going to make myself be able to listen to these enough times to really get all that stuff, because I want to discover new music, and I want to listen to this, and I want to listen to that, and this just kind of falls on the list. It's just hard to fit it in,
Sure. Yep.
But it's good. It's good for what it is. So it does make me kind of want to give it a little bit more of a chance, at least a few of these albums. And like I said, this was number 2 for me. So there's one I even like better than this one.
Okay.
But this one I have as a B+, and I have it just as top tier, for them, for me, I hate to sound like Randy Jackson, dog. For them, for me, for you, for me, it's a no, but it's just for them, for me, this is good stuff. This I can listen to.
Yeah, no, this is the album I was most curious about, because just to me, it's peak Mastodon. And if you were kind of like, I don't get this at all, then I'd be like, all right, well, it's just not going to happen for you. It's probably, it's just probably just not going to happen. And that's okay. There's bands that I'm sure that people love that I just like, I don't get it. Like, I tried, I just don't get it. So, Crack the Sky, that's the Air album. I didn't mention that.
Yep.
That's
Air makes sense.
So,
all right.
So that'll lead us to their 5th studio album, and actually first release you mentioned before, Roadrunner Records. This one was produced by a Mike Elizondo, who's more known for doing like rap, which is a strange mesh, but he did like an Eminem record. He did I'm trying to remember who else it was. I think he did 50 Cent and maybe Fiona Apple. So like those type of bands. And we got The Hunter, which was released
I
September
wonder if he was
27th.
related to the actor Hector Elizondo.
I don't. Who is that?
It's a guy. If you saw a picture, if I put a picture of him up, you'd be like, "Oh, that guy."
Okay.
So you've seen him in a million things, but it's just kind of funny. The name sticks with me, and I saw that, and I was like, "Huh, what if they're related?" Anyway,
Yeah.
and the last one was Brendan O'Brien, I think. Right? Was that
No.
Crack the Sky?
Oh yeah, you're right. I didn't even mention that. You're
Like
right. Brendan O'Brien.
Yeah, I mean, he's top line guy for. Especially that time too.
Yeah.
Like he was doing all the good stuff back then. So
Yeah, good
anyway,
call there.
sorry.
No, he just these names keep coming up with these bands we're doing. Brendan O'Brien definitely did some stuff that we talked about. I think he did AC/DC, one of their newest ones, and I mean,
that's the last
stuff.
couple, I think. Or
Maybe. Yeah.
So
So we got
he's good.
Yeah, so we got The Hunter, Mastodon's 5th album. This one was named The Hunter in honor of Brent Hines' brother, who died while hunting during the making of the album. So he literally passed away.
Kidding.
Yeah, so I'm sure this band, and like I will mention, these
what was
guys,
that fight about that he had with Chavo anyway?
I don't know. He just said he was wasted. I guess originally they basically said that they were going to press charges against the other two guys, Chavo and the other dude, and then they checked the cameras, and like Hines was just being like belligerent, drunk, and like talking shit to everybody. So I don't know, but a
lot's happened to this guy in a short amount of time, apparently.
Well, this whole band, basically they write all their stuff based on tragedy and like all this stuff that's going on. Like we'll talk later about a couple of these albums coming up, but it's wild. So anyway, The Hunter, this is the first album they've done since their first one, where there's no theme, there's no concept, it's just a bunch of songs. And to me, it shows. It's very disjointed, especially coming off Crack the Sky. For me, it just felt like a bunch of songs, and maybe it's just because that's what you expect from Mastodon, is some theming and things to kind of just mesh together. And to me, this album, just from the rip, it didn't really connect with me. This was kind of like the dark spot. Like while they were putting out The Hunter, I was going back and listening to Leviathan and Blood Mountain. That's when I was catching up on those albums.
Yeah.
This one never really, I guess, got to me. There's great songs on here, and like I mentioned before, the only one that I don't go back to is the Remission. I go back to this one all the time. There's some amazing songs on here, but to me, it goes a little long for me. A lot of these songs towards the end of the record are kind of for me. So, it's just not one of my favorites. But the vocals are still there from the last record. They sound great. The singing's really, really good. The riffs, I think, just get better and better. Black Tongue, I think, is such a sweet riff. I love that song. Curl of the Burl is really, really cool.
Yes, sir.
I love the title track, The Hunter. I love Dry Bone Valley is a sweet song. Probably those are my favorites. Skippers, I don't really like The Creature Lives. I don't really like Bedazzled Fingernails. And The Sparrow, to me, is one of their weaker closers. Not a huge fan of that one as well. Overall, pretty good album. I like it, but it's going to be at the bottom for me. To me, it's number 7. It's only better than Remission. I go back to it just for probably the first half of the album. But other than that, there's a lot of weaknesses on this. So this one's number 7, still a C+. So 7 of 8, C+ for me. What did you think of The Hunter, Mr. H?
I really like The Hunter. This, for me, was the best Mastodon that there was. So I like the one review, and I think this goes for Crack the Sky also, but I love this review line. This is great. Don't like metal? You might just love Mastodon. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Because this is real accessible metal, right? Like this almost hardly even is metal. But
Yeah,
I mean, it's got progressive metal, stoner metal, sludge metal, like all these metal tags on it. But this is almost hardly metal. Like this, there's just some really good stuff in here.
I agree.
Um, the Sparrow, I like that song. It reminds me of Ghost.
Okay.
It reminds me of Ghost. It's like it has the same kind of feel. I like how too it says lead vocals for the Sparrow. It just says Mastodon.
Yep.
Like so, all four of them sang in there somewhere. I guess they did. So my favorites were like you mentioned, Black Tongue, good stuff. Curl the Burl, really good stuff. Blasteroid, I like. Thickening, I like. Spectralight, I like. The Sparrow, I really liked. So there's only a couple skippers on for me on here, and that's the Hunter. It's because it drones on. It's kind of
Okay.
boring. It doesn't, nothing really happens in there. It's just like, really, the song, God, let's go. And then I didn't like Creature Lives either. You mentioned Creature Lives. It's a weird song. I didn't care for that one. But for me, this is a B+. It's the highest rating I would give them because I'm just not a huge fan of them, at least to this point. But this is number one for me out of their catalog. This is top tier for Mastodon. I rated Crack the Sky B+ also, and number 2. These were really close. I'm not going to say they're not. But basically what I put in here was there's a couple skippers, but the other 11 songs I like as much as or more than the Crack the Sky album. So totally get why you really like Crack the Sky, and that makes a lot of sense. That's where you got into them, and you like the whole the depth of it with the songs, and this doesn't feel like it has that same type of emotion to it. I agree, but I just like the songs better. These were way like kind of catchier for me, so I really like this one. This one was number one for me.
All right, I love it. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on these, so that's cool. But again, I love all these albums. So
yeah,
to me,
even you named a bunch of songs too. There's a lot of good songs on that album. There's a lot of good songs on there.
I think there's a lot of good songs on basically all their records, but
well, I guess that's true.
That's just me. I mean, but so that leads us to the 6th studio album. This one, June 24th, 2014, on Reprise again. This one doesn't have Roadrunner listed. I don't know if they split off or.
I think they did. I think you're right. I think they split off. I think Reprise split off from Roadrunner the other way around. I can't remember. I think Reprise split off from Roadrunner again because Roadrunner was getting bigger, and Reprise is like, hey, we can do our own thing and make more money by ourselves, kind of.
Yeah.
But
so we have our buddy Nick Rescalance, producer. He produced Foo Fighters and also
weird how all these guys. I mean, I guess it's all the same type of music, same kind of area of music we keep reviewing, so I guess it makes sense, but it still shocks me how many times you see Mutt Lange and all these dudes. It's funny. Brendan O'Brien, I think we've mentioned like 5 different places.
You go in these circles and they just make albums that sound good, and
Rick Rubin, they just keep popping up everywhere you go.
So this one is the one that I mentioned earlier where I didn't like it when it came out, and this one has grown on me. So this one has been a grower and instead of a shower like Blood Mountain was. So this one kind of went in the other direction. Once More Round the Sun, the theme of it is, what would you do if you were in your last year of your life and you were just going around the sun one more time, was the thought while making this record. So basically they didn't want to go with a concept like they did before, but they just kind of were thinking about that as they were going. The album's theme, he said, would be death, but again, that's basically all their albums in one way or the other.
Yeah.
But this one is basically saying, you're going to die. What would you do, in that time? So I really, really like this album now. I thought it was pretty weird when it first came out. To me, I was almost losing a little bit of faith in these guys. They were not living up to Crack the Sky for me. But over time, there's enough good songs on here. I kept coming back to these. Again, vocals sound great. The production is awesome. But it's very similar to The Hunter to me, just a bunch of songs together of different varying likes. The ones I like the most on here is the Motherload. If you have not seen that video, go see it. It's hilarious. It's just a bunch of big booty bees shaking their butts. So viewer discretion is advised, but it's hilarious. I will
That's
say,
the mother load.
yeah, the videos from the Hunter on are phenomenal. They love this art of music video, and they're all very entertaining. So, Motherload, High
You know,
Road is
seen
good.
of their videos?
What's that?
0. I said,
Okay.
you know how many videos I've seen of theirs? 0.
Yeah, definitely.
Never
If you're
seen a
sitting around,
single video.
check it out. It's pretty funny. Some
Didn't
of
even
them.
know what these guys looked like until we saw them live.
Yeah. So, the Motherload, High Road is good. I love the title track, Once More Around the Sun. Very cool. I love the song Asleep in the Deep. Another song that with a really cool music video. It's just a cat walking around the city and then finding himself on acid, and it's crazy.
Oh,
Dude, it's crazy. So Ember City is awesome, and I love the closer, which is the Scott Kelly track on this record, Diamond in the Witch House. Weird, pretty cool. Skippers for me are Chimes at Midnight. Not really a huge fan of that one. And Aunt Lisa is okay. I don't get the end where the kids are chanting, "Hey ho, let's effing go." That was a little weird.
Lost
for me
there.
Lost me there too. So overall, though, this album has come a long way for me. The high points have become higher. So to me, this is number 5. So it's about mid tier. I have it as a B to a B minus. Number 5. It's just there. It just grew on me. When it first came out, I had it. That one and the Hunter at the very bottom. But this one is getting a little bit more to where I come back to it more often. So pretty good. What did you think of Once More Around the Sun, Mr. H?
I like this one.
Okay.
I thought this was a good one. This was kind of more along the Hunter lines, like you said, maybe more disjointed, but the songs to me were solid. Couple of standout ones in there. I like Tread Lightly a lot, and I like the Motherload. I even put that was the best. That's the best song I've heard so far from these guys. I really like that song. And High Road. High Road was really good. Asleep in the Deep was fantastic too. I didn't have any skippers. It's just this is a solid B for me. This is number 3. Again, this kind of follows right along with Crack the Sky and the Hunter. This is the same kind of sound for them, which is good for me. And there's some good riffs in there and some good vocal deliveries, and I really liked Motherload. So that was my favorite one. I have not seen that video, that's for sure. But I haven't seen it. It's just weird. I will. I didn't even know they made any videos, to be honest. So
Yep.
I will go look into those. But those never affect my ratings anyway.
Yeah.
And in fact, my buddy John and I were talking about that earlier today. Like, it's a good thing that some of our criteria that we rate these guys on isn't videos, but it's not really fair, right? Because you can't dock Zeppelin or bands that never had any videos really for not having videos. And then I don't know, the last 15 years or so, they all just go to YouTube. It's not like you can turn on MTV and you're going to watch any of them like you used to be able to. They used to be everywhere. You used to be able to not get away from the videos, So that's kind of not fair. But anyway, it's I didn't even know they had any, so I will check that one out. But I had this as a number 3, rating solid B for me.
Nice.
Good stuff.
So that leads us to the 7th album, released March 31st, 2017. We got produced by our buddy Brendan O'Brien again. They brought him back for Emperor of Sand, which the band went back and decided to do another concept album. So this one is loosely based upon cancer, which affected every member of the band at this time, which is actually, it's kind of crazy that they named their first album Remission, a term used meaning that cancer's all gone.
Yeah.
So while they were writing Emperor of Sand, each one of them dealt with something to do with cancer. I think Bill's mom passed away of cancer while they were writing this. I think somebody's wife, I can't remember whose it was. I think it was Troy. It was Troy Sanders. His wife was battling cancer. She actually survived. And then I think somebody else too as well. But anyway, the whole theme of this album is Cancer. So the story in the music is that a sultan cursed a man to walk across the desert with a sickness that will kill him. So the very first song, the Sultan's Curse, is referring to cancer. And then this guy walked across the desert, and then of course more hallucination, more survival, trying to survive after not having any water, anything like that. And this protagonist runs into the Emperor of Sand, which is the guy on the cover, who's supposed to be like a Grim Reaper type figure. So basically, this album is about a journey through the desert, very similar to a journey up a mountain, but this one is the curse involved, which is cancer. So that's roughly where they were at when making this album. Just to me, this one's very emotional. You could tell while they were writing it, there's a whole lot of stuff in here that's, real heartfelt, real big choruses. I think even more than ever before. Just a lot of really good stuff here. I loved this album from the moment that it came out. I really connected with it. To me, I feel like they're making their strongest stuff now. To me, like, you can't beat Crack the Sky, but these last couple albums for me really, really are pushing it for me with the quality of their stuff, the production that they're doing. It's just phenomenal. Songs that I like on this album are a lot of them. Sultan's Curse, Show Yourself. Steam Breather's probably one of my favorite songs of theirs. Just phenomenal. Clandestiny is awesome. Just these choruses, Roots Remain, just a beautiful chorus. Like, when I heard this album first, to me, I couldn't believe the amount of harmonies and the singing that they're doing. This is about the point where I kind of mentioned earlier to you, where I was using the excuse of, man, these guys sing really good for guys that can't sing very well. And this is the point where I'm just like, man, these guys are just good singers now. Maybe they just grew over time, but man, it's like, I love the singing lines, and that's just where they've came from Remission to where they're at here, Emperor of Sand. It's mind blowing to me. So this is a great album. I love it. This is number 3 for me. It's a B+. It's just, it is one of the ones I come back to the most, and just love it. There's not really any skippers. Scorpion Breath is the one on this album featuring Scott Kelly, which this is the last appearance that he will show. And also, I didn't mention, but Jaguar God, I think, is While Long is phenomenal as far as, a musician piece of music. It's just, I can't believe Mastodon is making this stuff. So Emperor of Sand is a thumbs up for me. Number 3, B+. What did you think of Emperor of Sand?
All right. I feel like they were settling into a nice groove here with a sound all their own at this point. Like,
Yep.
Nobody else sounds like these guys. Their singing has gotten better, but I feel like the scale is kind of like down a little lower. Like, they started at such a low point where I almost couldn't stand it, to where now it's good. I don't know that they're great, singers and by any means, any of the 4 of them, but they've gotten to a point where they know what they're doing. They know what parts to sing, kind of with different pieces of music, even, I think, which guy fits different stuff the best. And it really comes out into a good, cohesive, thing, that they're putting together here. So that said, I don't love it. This one kind of lost out to me to Leviathan, more so because I've seen him play all Leviathan live, and I feel like it's a recency kind of bias thing, I guess. But we did just see him, a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. So, but this is still the same rating as I had for Leviathan. This is a B. I really like Sultan's Curse. Like you said, I like Show Yourself, Precious Stones. Those are the first 3 songs. Ancient Kingdom I like too. For the rest of the album, I really like that one. I don't know why, but I don't like Steam Breather. I just don't.
Okay.
I don't like it. Like, this one too. I'm going in to listen to this album. I'm like, well, at least I'm going to like that one because it's one of the few titles that I recognize by them.
You've seen it live. They played it as
seen
encore.
and I've seen them do it live, and it's just, I just don't I don't really like it, so I don't know why, but I know that's a huge song for them. But
Yeah.
I didn't care. But now it's also not one I would skip. I only have one skipper, and that's Clandestiny with its weird robot lyrics.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to get doing, man. It's just they have these weird, quirky songs, and I'm like, what? I guess because I don't know the stories, maybe maybe that at least has something to do with some of it. Is just like, well, I'm just listening to song after song. I'm like, what is this? What am I listening to? So I didn't care for that song, but that was it. So I have this as a number 5. It's got multiple good songs on this one for me. I just don't like it as much as Crack the Sky or The Hunter, and like I said, it kind of loses out to Leviathan, even though I had them rated the same.
Yep.
If I saw him do these songs live, I would probably like this more than Leviathan. Right?
Okay.
This would be a 4 for me if it was the case, but I've only seen him do the one song, and it's one that I don't really like. So if I saw him do the other 4 or 5 songs I like on here, then I'd probably go with this one. But
Yeah.
this as a 5, and I have it as a B.
All right. That will take us to the 8th
Last one
and final so far as of now.
Yeah, right. This was
Record.
already 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, 2021.
More than that.
Yep. So we got Hushed and Grim, released October 29th, 2021. And I can tell you right off the bat, as I was listening to this again, which before I'm probably going to, you could probably figure out where this one's rating for me. I listened to this album since we ended Metallica last week. I listened to this album, I think, about 12 times. This is peak new Mastodon for me. And
Wow.
I thought to myself, Mr. H is going to hate this effing album. And I said that every time I listen to it. And I don't think you're going to hate all of it, but
yeah, knowing what I said about the other ones, no,
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
But I knew this was going to be a slog for you. Because
It was
very
and
long.
more number of songs. It is 15 songs on
Yeah.
here, dude. It's too many, and there's
It is.
anyway. I'll get into my review.
Yeah.
Go ahead. My bad.
So Hushed and Grim, it's not really a concept album per se, but this album, when they went into the studio, they were really probably at the lowest with all the tragedy. They just lost their former manager, Nick John, from cancer, which they're probably like, are you freaking kidding
Really?
me? Like, everybody's dying.
I gotta say
everybody's
too, I
dead.
didn't mention that between 14 and 17, when you said Emperor of Sand, they all had dealing with cancer, and I lost my mom to cancer between 14 and 17 also. So
Okay.
I mean, I can totally relate to that. So you said that was what that album was about. I'm like, damn,
Yep.
really?
Yeah.
So I didn't know that, but I was like, oh boy.
And this one,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry to hear that.
it's sad. Yep.
It's sad, but this is where they were at, and they said they were gonna dedicate this album to their manager, and ended up with the darkest, like, this album is just like the darkest of dark that you could
You can almost tell by the album or by the song
Yeah.
titles. The song titles, you can
Yeah.
almost tell how sad this is, really.
I mean, it's emotional. Like when I
Hushed
just
and Grim, even the name of the album.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah. It's just a double album, which we know how each of us feels about double albums. This one definitely took a while.
if you really
for
like
it
them,
to
you're
grow
like,
on
yeah,
me.
they could pull this off. If you don't, then you're like, it's way too long. What are they doing?
It's a lot to digest. It's a
Yeah,
lot
it
to
is a lot.
digest for a Mastodon fan. Like
Yeah.
I said, I'm to the point now where I worship this album. I think it's phenomenal, but it took me a while. Like I was really
Did
because
this ever get to number 1 for you, do you think?
no.
No?
It did not.
Okay, I
It
just
did
wondered
not.
if it could still, because there's so much here for you to get into,
Yeah, no.
if it could ever really get to the point where you're like, that's so much way better than I thought. Or
There's some moments on here that rival Crack the Sky, but as
Okay.
a full piece of
Yeah.
art, it doesn't beat Crack the Sky. But this one for me, it meant a lot to me. I went through a lot in 2021 personally. I had to have open heart surgery. I got real sick, so I was recovering and was real, like, just trying to find myself. This album came out when I was in the midst of my working out and getting healthy and trying to turn my life around. And this album just ended up on repeat. And like, I kind of forced myself to just keep listening to it because I knew I was going to like what was there, but it's just so much to digest. But eventually, like I said, all this meant for me going to do an episode on Mastodon was basically me listening to Hushed and Grim like a million times. So
Okay.
absolutely love this album. I think as musicians and writers, this is just like, I just don't see how they can do anything better in my eyes as far as how well it sounds and the production and just everything. It feels like this is their pocket. You kind of mentioned before that they were definitely they found their
They're
spot.
in a groove now for sure.
Yeah, so I love it. My favorites on here, there's just so many. Pain with an Anchor is awesome. The Crux is awesome. More Than I Can Chew, you saw that one live. That's a good song. The Beast, I could not stand. It's like a country almost sounding song, but I love it now. I think
I couldn't stand, but now I love it.
yeah. So it starts off with like a country solo, which to me it's like what is going
Avatar
on
Country.
here? Yeah,
That's
almost.
funny.
It almost is. Yeah, but
Yeah.
Brent Hines, who typically I don't think is the strongest singer of the three, sings his ass off on The Beast. It's just he's got this like this southern rock twang. I mean, oh my god, he nails it. I know, like it's.
I
crazy.
have a little thing for myself from a little life of its own for me for The Beast. So it's kind of funny that you're mentioning that one.
It's just a song that I normally wouldn't like, but to me, it just it's like an unsung hero. The guy that I wouldn't think would sing they have the best vocal performance for me of any Mastodon song ever, and it's this country type song that he does on The Beast. It's so good. Skeleton of Splendor, Tear Drinker is awesome. One that really grew on me was Peace and Tranquility. I think that's another one that Brent Hines sings his ass off on. And then the very last song, Gigantium, I saw live and blew my mind. Just love this album. I did see them on this tour like 4 times, so I heard a lot of these songs played live. Probably makes a difference for me. But
definitely would. Yeah.
But this album is number 2, easy number 2. Like there's easy number 1, Crack the Sky. This one's easy number 2. It didn't get there right away, but I would say probably sometime last year, I just found myself going back to it all the time. I just love this album. It means a lot to me personally. It means a lot to me just every time I go to it, man. It's sad, it's somber, it's dark, but man, it hits. I love it. What did you think, other than it's way too damn long? What did you think of Hushed and Grim?
It's way too damn long. I mean, that's
yeah.
My first comment was too many songs.
Yep.
There's just so many songs on here. And I mentioned before, like before I got into it too much, there's songs on here that are so similar that I'm like, why are both of these songs even on here? Like,
sure,
I could easily chop off probably 4 songs off of this, and it would be a better album for me because it just. I have 6 skippers on here, but that still leaves 9 songs.
Right.
So, I mean, there's some songs I really like too. So I really like Pain with an Anchor. You're right. And think about these song titles. Pain with an Anchor, More Than I Could Chew, Tear Drinker, Savage Lands, Sickle and Peace, Skeleton of Splendor, Dagger. Like these are all Gobblers of Dregs. Yep. Like these are all like depressing songs titles, you know, like you could tell that there was just a dark vibe around this album, you know. Yeah. But I like Pain with an Anchor. I like More Than I Could Chew a lot. I like Tear Drinker, and I like Savage Lands. Those are my 4 favorite songs on here. I didn't like Sickle and Peace. I didn't like Skeleton of Splendor. I didn't like Dagger. I didn't like Had It All, and I didn't like Gobblers of Dregs. So that's 6 songs. Like to me, it's hard to rate an album really high, but I do feel like there's more of that. This is where I feel like there's more brawn in here. There's more drum soloing going on, like there was on the first album. It's not everywhere. It fits more into the songs. It's not just over top of everything all the time, but there's more of it in here. And it's just kind of like, man, dude, all right. I get it. You love the snare drum. I understand. You love it. It's great. But, it's so much sometimes. I'm like, enough.
Yeah.
Like, give me a good guitar riff. Give me a good breakdown with a simple drum beat behind it. He can't do that sometimes, it seems like. It's got to be all this fills and all this stuff all the time. He's got to be hitting something. It's like, dude, sometimes less is more, but man, he's a fantastic drummer, like I said, but it's just sometimes it's too much. And it showed up here again for me. I have this as a B-. I have this number 6 out of the 8. There's some good songs here, but there's just way too many of them. And the similar songs that I feel like some could get, like, let's see, Gobblers of Dregs, and I wrote them down here. Gobblers of Dregs and Had It All, to me, kind of sound almost the same song. Like, it's the same tempo, it's the same feel, it's the same kind of everything. And then Eyes of Serpents and Gigantium also feel like the same song. Like, okay, we were listening to this as the last one. We went on a fall drive yesterday, and I'm like, I got to listen to this one more album. We listened to this album. We drove from our house to Cuyahoga Falls, which is like 25 minutes. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then we drove all the way back from Cuyahoga Falls, and this is all that we listened to, and it was still going. And I asked her, I said, do you have this on repeat? Does this album start over? Because I can't believe this is still going on.
Right.
And this was like, we're 6 minutes from home. And she's like, no, this is Gigantium. This is the last song. I'm like, okay. I'm like, man, I just couldn't believe how long it was.
Yeah.
And I made note while we were driving. I'm like, hey, I like this one. I don't like this one. But it's just, there's so many songs in there. And I don't like when they just throw them all in there. If this tells a story, that's one thing. But as far as, I didn't hear you say this tells any kind of overall story. So I don't know why you'd need 15 songs. Like, if you're Queensrÿche and you're an Operation Mindcrime and you have 17 songs or whatever, I know they don't for that one. But let's say they needed 17 songs to tell the story. That's a great story. And the 17 songs, okay, you got me. There might be a couple I don't really like, but if they fit into the story, it's fine. That because it's such a cool thing. But I didn't think this had that. It's just kind of like you're just adding songs. But also, I don't want to bag on it because I know this is how important this one was to you. So now I feel even worse. But that's just okay. This is what I got out of it.
No, that's fine. So, it's again, I went into this knowing I admitted I have listened to all these albums dozens, almost 100 times, probably most of these albums. For me to catch all the stuff, of course, I know the difference between all these songs, but I've listened to this album 100 times more than you have. So I'm not going to sit and expect you to listen to this once and be like, oh yeah, like all 15 songs are this. And I mean, that's unfair. That's not fair.
Yeah. And I literally have listened to this album one time.
Yeah. Right.
I've heard the songs that I've heard on Catastrophe Radio, Metal on Metal, whatever. Stuff I listen to, I've heard, Sirius XM, whatever. I've heard some of these songs, but maybe like a couple times here and there. This is the first time I've listened to the whole thing. And it's just, I don't know, I found a lot of it to be kind of repetitive. And I'm like, well, if you got 15 songs and you got songs that are repetitive, I mean, maybe they all mean something to them. Yeah. And that's a whole different thing too. Like, I don't make those decisions. But for me, listening to it as somebody who's trying to get into them, if I started here, I'd have been like, boy, I hope they put less songs on the album because these all kind of sound the same. So, I get it. If you're a fan of them, though, obviously you're obviously anybody, you're going to be able to be like, hey, that song doesn't sound at all like that one. Well, the first time you listened to it, if you you weren't that all familiar, maybe you'd think otherwise.
Yeah, I admitted it took me a while to get into this because of that reason. There's just so much here.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of songs.
I didn't even know it was a double album. I really didn't.
Well, because when you're listening to it on Spotify, it all just goes together. So.
Yeah, right.
But I do recommend, I think for the last couple albums, there's documentaries, like little documentary movies.
I saw that. I did read about that. Yeah.
There's one for this album, Hush and
Making
Scream.
of and like other kind of stuff. Yeah.
the last 3 or 4 albums, and to me, it not only are they just likable guys, they're goofballs, they're funny, they have personality.
I did
do-
notice they have a lot of live stuff out there too, like
They do.
produced, like good sounding live stuff that I haven't listened to because I just couldn't fit it all in,
Sure.
but I probably should listen to. So
These guys are very hardworking. Number one, they tour all the time. They just tour all the time.
They do.
Um,
I've seen them a bunch of times, and I've never once gone to see just them. Never.
Right.
And I've seen them probably 4 or 5 times, and I've never gone to see just them.
So just in the last 3 years, I've seen them with Gojira, Lamb of God, and Opeth. Like all like some of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's like Mastodon and one of those other bands. It's like, man, that's like a no-brainer for me. Like,
yeah.
I love these bills they get on, but and I've seen them a few times headlining, and they're awesome when they can play a ton of their own stuff. But they're just really hardworking guys. They're likable guys. So really, just if you're just sitting around, whatever, and on YouTube, they're worth a watch, and it really does tell you like how much all these songs mean to all these guys, and to me I don't want to say it clears it, because like even like to me the Hunter, Once More Around the Sun are a little bit too long still. There's too many songs, and I'm sure all the songs mean something to them and they love writing, but to me, like this one, I personally forgive how long it is just over the years because I like it. And if you put out 15 songs that I resonate with, then that's obviously going to be a lot easier than AC/DC's newest album with 16 songs on it, where I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like, so much repeating. But anyway, it's all perspective.
I totally hear you. Yep.
So it all just based on what you like and all that.
Yep.
So one other thing about this album before we give our 1 through 8, I thought was interesting. So Had It All, I know you weren't a fan of that one. This one was basically written, like one of the first songs fully written by Troy Sanders. Was like a personal song for him. He had his mom come in and play French horn on it.
Yeah, I read that.
And they ended up getting the guitarist from Soundgarden, Kim Tile, to play the guitar solo on it. So I thought that was pretty cool. But that's what made me think of that. The documentary is the producer in it, who I didn't really know who he was, David Botnell.
I don't know.
But I guess he got the best out of him. The band loved working with him, and they really loved the way this sounded. And they were, basically Had It All is not a song that Mastodon would typically have on one of their albums, and basically worked it in there. And they're like, yeah, you should. Do you know anybody that plays French horn? And Troy's like, my mom plays French horn. It's like, look, come on now.
I think it was more the other way around. Like, how can we fit my mom into
Probably.
this song? You know what I mean? They weren't looking for a French horn, I don't think. Although
that's what
they are
said.
pretty artsy. So
They are.
Maybe they were. I do have to say, like I mentioned the Beast earlier, the Beast went through a whole life cycle for me. It originally was a song I'm like, I'd skip this one. I don't really like this one. And then I listened to it again a little bit later. I'm like, I kind of like this one.
Yeah.
And I put it in my favorites. And then I'm like, is it really a favorite? And then I ended up just not putting it in either. But it's funny that you mentioned the Beast, because I kind of went all over the place on that one too. So that, and I wanted to mention, I completely forgot to mention that the album cover, Behind Your Head, Once Around the Sun, is a fantastic album cover.
It's so
That's
cool.
the best one by far. Now, they have some pretty cool ones, and they have some pretty cool logo stuff, but that album cover is badass. It really is. And I totally wanted to mention it while we were on that album, and I completely forgot to do it. So I wanted to make sure. I just looked at it again. I'm like, I got to say it, because it's fantastic. So anyway.
Excellent. Let's hear your 1 to 8.
Overall, my 1 to 8 from Mastodon. I liked The Hunter as number 1, Crack the Sky number 2, Once More Around the Sun, which I just mentioned with the fantastic album cover, number 3, Leviathan number 4, Emperor of the Sand number 5, now Hush and Grim number 6. And those are all kind of their most recent ones where they kind of changed their sound and then sounded much better for me. And then I have 7, I had Blood Mountain, and 8, I had Remission. What'd you have?
Number 1, easy number 1 for me, Crack the Sky. Legacy album for me. Number 2, Hushed and Grim. I think it's phenomenal. Number 3, Emperor of Sand. Number 4, is my classic that I come back to, which is Leviathan, my favorite of the older ones. Number 5, Once More Round the Sun. Number 6, Blood Mountain, used to be much higher, has dropped over the years. Number 7, The Hunter, and number 8, we agree, Remission. Just didn't really do it for either of us, and glad they took a different direction.
Yes.
So excellent.
Looks like Lamb of God at the beginning, like that.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of that. Like it's a starting point for a band that almost didn't seem to know what they wanted to sound like yet.
Sure.
Like they just threw something together and got it out there. Like everybody knew they were all talented, they're all really good, and they're just like threw this together and put it out there. But it wasn't really what they really wanted to sound like, and I feel like that was Lamb of God too, kind of the same.
Sure.
Same thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of the life cycles a band can have where
Sometimes they come out with like Appetite for Destruction. It's the greatest thing, and they'll never top that. So you never know. But yeah, in these two cases, it definitely was something that grew. Kill Switch Engage is another one. It grew. It was man. By the time you get to 3, 4, 5 albums in, like these guys, and you're like, man, this is fantastic. They just grew into what they wanted to be, and then kind of stayed there.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, partner, for indulging my Mastodon love.
Absolutely, man.
Appreciate that. So next week, we're going to go with a more recent band. We're going to get into Nothing More. So we will get into them next week. Anything else, partner? Anything you got?
I don't think so.
All right.
As far as... Let's see. Went to Mushroom Head Saturday. That was pretty good. Was kind of disappointed though, to be honest. But I got cheap tickets. I didn't buy them when they went on sale. Saved myself like $30. But literally, like this is Mushroom Head. This is the Halloween show in Cleveland. Like Mushroom Head, if you guys know, they've been around for 30 years. Basically 31 years now. They've been doing Halloween shows. They've always dressed in costumes, so it was kind of a fitting thing for them. They've always done Halloween shows, mostly at the Agora, the world famous Cleveland Agora. And basically been doing those 25, 27, 28 years, something like that. Long time. I've seen a lot of them. But now they played the month of October, which makes a lot of sense. The stage was okay, but it's been way better in years past, and it was the same exact set list as the entire month. So it's never been that way before. Like this is Cleveland, right? This is the Agora. This is your home. They always added 3 or 4 songs or swapped out songs so we could hear more classic stuff. And it was the exact same show. Like the backdrop, they had this big cool looking like harvest moon, which is kind of like that orange moon you saw. It was like 2 weeks ago, but they have a big orange moon. It was all like wrinkled, like it was stored in the back of somebody's trunk of their car, and they just got it out and put up this giant backdrop, and it looked terrible. I'm like, what? I don't know. It was weird. And then they had 2 big drops next to the drums that were just the new album cover, which okay, I get it. You just came out with the new album and you want to promote that, but it was so prominent. Like it was just like the new album, and they had a wrinkled old moon up there that they used to have that looked awesome, because they used to have like dead trees and like all the stuff on stage, pumpkins lit up everywhere. There was none of that. Like it just like, was this really a Halloween show, or was this Grand Rapids 3 weeks ago? Like I don't even know. It didn't really matter. So I was glad it only cost me $27, but it sounded good and it was cool, and I'm glad I went. But I was really kind of disappointed. But anyway, other than that, that's about all I've had going on lately. Cool. We got Iron Maiden, like you said, in a week and a half.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
So
for sure.
Fantastic. So and what the Hue, opening, I believe, and they just played here at the House of Blues, I think 2 nights ago.
Yeah, they're cool.
Bill Peters on Metal was giving away tickets. He keeps calling them the Hue. That's what he keeps calling them. So I don't know. It's HU. So
yeah, they're pretty cool.
I've heard the Hue. They're Mongolian, kind of weird.
They do
tribal
the throat,
kind of sounding
singing.
Yeah,
the throat singing stuff. But yeah, that's cool. It'll be interesting to see. So
yeah, well, and I've heard they're really good live. So yeah, we'll be there regardless. So
yep.
All right, man.
Well,
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it. If you guys are watching, please like and subscribe and comment and all that stuff. We'd love to hear from you as always. So definitely please do us a favor. And one of those, show us that you're there and show us your rankings if you have a comment or
come in and
opinion.
rank with us.
Yeah, we want you
Tell
to
us
rank.
we're idiots.
Yeah,
Something.
I want to know. Like
Right.
I'm obviously a big Mastodon homer, and Mr. H doesn't really know a lot about Mastodon, so I want you to shout me out if I'm doing something wrong. So, but
tell me I'm an idiot because I didn't really like him before.
Right.
Whatever.
All right. Well,
anyway.
All right. Well, thanks, Mr. H, and we will see you next week.
Sounds good. Rock on.
Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
What would you say you do here?
God damn it. Bob, we love playing here tonight. My brother's ready.
It helps if you think of it as a game, Bob. Every game has a winner and a loser.
You must possess strength to inflict pain, Bob.